I find it hard to look at the things in my past without judging myself. It's a very fair thing to say and honest. I know I should forgive myself, but I feel like without judgment, I wouldn't be able to change and become a better person. How do I avoid complacency while not judging myself? Oh, let me just leave that last question out for the moment. It looks like it's apparent here that you're mincing words here and mistaking one thing for another. What you are calling judgment, or you're confusing judgment for discernment, introspection, self-inquiry. You can look at events in your life, past or present. You can look at choices you've made, circumstances you have, and be very, very honest about them without being judgmental. And when you say judgmental, there's a connotation of condescending and condemning. And for most people, that's what judgment usually means, implies. You can be fully honest and accountable without condemning yourself or blaming yourself. Accountability is not necessarily blame. Blame takes on an energy, again, of judgment and condescension. But accountability is simple, like they used to say on that TV show Dragnet in the 70s, just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. So accountability is just the facts. Same way integrity, when you're discussing integrity, integrity is truth. It's a synonym for truth. Like if you say a fabric has integrity, what holds it together? The truth of that. So integrity doesn't mean good or bad. That's a value system that people assign to it. But the integrity is the truth. We live in this polarized world of good, bad, right, wrong, which I stay away from because that's very delusional and that's a black hole, a self-condemning downward spiral. Those are not healthy words to use when assessing your life or circumstances. You can look at faith or fear, loving or non-loving. Better to use words like that than right, wrong, good, bad. Or if you want to maybe replace right and wrong with, does it serve my highest good or does it not? It's just, when you start using good, bad, right, wrong, it just leads down a road that's just a dead end, and it's a very self-condemning one. So, back to this thing about judging myself. You can be fully accountable without being judgmental. Like, for instance, friend comes over, you have lunch together, you get into a discussion, the discussion gets heated, and there's a little bit of an argument, and the friend leaves, and you left on bad terms. So you can look at that and say, okay, let me assess this. Let me discern, introspect, self-inquire, and review and reflect without judgment. You could say, well, was I 100% unconditionally loving throughout that conversation? Did I judge or condemn or deny him or her the opportunity, the right to create, to express him herself? Those are simple facts. They're not necessarily judgmental. Judgment is, oh, I'm such a blank. Fill in your own favorite negative word or expletive or swear. That's a judgment. But I wasn't as loving as I could have been. That's not a judgment. That's an assessment of a factual situation. So it's important that you delineate and separate the difference between judgment, condemnation, condescension, with reflection, assessment, accountability, integrity, truth. They're very, very separate. Don't lump them together, please, as the same thing. They're not. And anyone can do this. Now that you know the difference, by way of this hopefully illuminating discourse, you can be more successful at reflecting on things you've said and done. I know I should forgive myself. You're saying, but without judging myself, I'm not able to change. No. Well, first of all, it's very important for people to forgive themselves based on the knowingness that everything is forgivable, everything is redeemable. Now, if you don't have that knowingness, if you don't have that belief, then, of course, forgiveness is hard because we carry around these scarlet letters, as you remember from Scarlet Letter, the famous Nathaniel Hawthorne book, you know, the woman who committed adultery had to wear that red A on her chest around her town for the rest of her life. You know, we're not meant to have this guilt and this blame and this condemnation on us. You need to know, it's important to know that everything is forgivable, everything is redeemable, and ergo you should, because people do err, people do make mistakes. But in the accountability, making restitution, making higher, better choices, recreating yourself as love, and getting back on your horse, an important part of that 4 or 5-step process is self-forgiveness, as well as is important, equally important, to forgive others their transgressions against you, in the knowingness that you can, and that it's very powerful and healing to do so for you and for the other person. Mercy, compassion, these divine qualities increase in you every time you choose to forgive someone. Whether or not you think they deserve it or they earned it, that's irrelevant. Those are conditions. That's conditional love. True forgiveness is unconditional. You forgive people just because you can, and because it's the Christed, the godly, the loving thing to do. And in terms of what they owe the universe or the karma, well, that's between them and God. That's none of your business. If you stay hooked into justice hasn't prevailed, you're hooked into their karma too. So it's very empowering, and it's very fruitful for you to forgive, as well as forgive yourself. But not at the expense of accountability. Not judgment, but accountability. Where did I step out of love? What do I need to do to recreate myself? Is there any restitution I need to make? And now I forgive myself, and I get back on my horse and move on. You've learned from it. You glean from it. And then you don't have to recreate it again. When you refuse to take those steps, you'll just keep recreating it again and again and again. Bigger and bigger and bigger. Upward spiral or downward spiral. The only thing constant is change, though. There's no such thing as just staying the same.